Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Richelle Suarez and today we're gonna see the third cranial nerve. The third cranial nerve, or oculomotor nerve, is a mixed nerve containing motor fibers that are general somatic afferent and preganglionic parasympathetic, which are general visceral afferent fibers. Even though we know that this nerve arises from the rostral aspect of the midbrain, we first need to understand how this nuclei receives information from the cerebral cortex. To do that, we need to understand that the oculomotor nerve has two parts, a central part and a peripheral part. The oculomotor nerve receives information from the neurons located in the motor cortex. To be more specific, from the neurons located in the middle frontal gyrus and inferior frontal gyrus. This area is classified as Brodmann Area 8. Which is for planning movements, in this case the eyeball. The axons of these neurons leave the cerebral cortex to the midbrain, where they will synapse with the oculomotor nuclei in the rostral midbrain. This pathway is called the cortical nuclear tract or the cortical bulbar tract. This tract first passes to a sheet of white matter called the corona radiata, which contains both the descending axons from the cerebral cortex and ascending axons from the spinal cord and the thalamus. The corticonuclear tract passes through the genu of internal capsule, which is a flattened band of white matter located between the lentiform nucleus laterally and the caudate nucleus and thalamus medially. The axons then decussate to the other side and reach the neurons of the oculomotor nuclei and synapse with them. Okay, we can say that the information now has reached the second neuron, or the lower motor neuron. But wait, we missed one more detail. Most of the axons arising from the cortex do not synapse directly with the oculomotor nuclei. Instead, they synapse with some small neurons called interneurons that are located in the reticular formation, and then these interneurons synapse with the oculomotor nuclei. Also take into account that some axons do not decussate, so they will synapse with the ipsilateral interneurons instead. Alright, now we have covered everything from the cortex to the oculomotor nuclei. But as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the oculomotor nerve is a mixed nerve. Remember, it has motor fibers and preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. But where does the parasympathetic fibers arise from? They arise from a different nuclei called the accessory oculomotor nuclei. Another name for this will be the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Up to now we have covered the central part of the oculomotor nerve. So now we're gonna move on to the peripheral part. The oculomotor nerve emerges from the brainstem in the interpeduncular fossa between the cerebral peduncles, then pierces the dura mater and continues anteriorly in the lateral wall or the cavernous sinus, then entering the orbit through the superior orbital fissure. After entering the orbit, it divides into the superior division and the inferior division, which is larger. Both divisions run beneath the trochlea and the ophthalmic nerve at the beginning. The superior division passes above the optic nerve to supply the superior rectus muscle. This superior division also gives up a branch that innervates the superior palpebrae muscle and the superioris muscle, so we can say that this division only contains motor fibers. Now the inferior division is the one that carries the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers along with the motor fibers. This division separates into medial, central, and lateral branches. The medial branch then enters the ocular surface to the medial rectus muscle. The central branch enters the ocular surface of the inferior rectus muscle, and the lateral branch enters the orbital surface of the inferior oblique muscle and communicates with the ciliary ganglions to give the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers to synapse with neurons in the ciliary ganglion. The postganglionic parasympathetic fibers of the ciliary ganglion then innervates the sphincter pupillae muscle and the ciliary muscle. Note that the oculomotor nuclei is also interconnected with other cranial nerve nuclei in the brainstem. Some neurons of the vestibular nuclei belonging to the vestibulocochlear nerve project fibers to the neurons of the oculomotor nuclei as well as neurons of the abducens nerve nucleus and the trochlear nucleus. For example, the connection between the oculomotor and the abducens nuclei is mediated by the medial longitudinal fasciculus to provide the lateral movement of one eye with the medial movement of the other eye in the horizontal gaze. But how does it do that? Well, the abducens nuclei will send inhibiting fibers to the ipsilateral oculomotor nuclei, inhibiting the medial rectus muscle of that eye, as well as sending excitatory fibers to the contralateral oculomotor nuclei, then activating the medial rectus of that other eye. So we can say that on one eye the medial rectus is inhibited and on the other eye the medial rectus is excited. So that would produce a lateral or horizontal gaze. And that's the end of our video. I hope you learned a lot about the oculomotor nerve and its pathways. My name is Richel Suarez, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.